Summaries with Bummy. We will see epic battles, romances, betrayals, and a lot of battles. So get ready and let's get started.
We begin our story where we can see a defeated man. The so-called Hound of the Baskerville family, Vicaire van Baskerville. The Hound who was always loyal to his family and his father. He was about to be killed, and his head was on a guillotine. He was falsely accused and framed for associating with the Demon Clan, and that led him to the guillotine. It was all happening as he watched the man who was loyal to him. If he were to live again, I would not live again as a hound. Now I would be the one hunting them. Where am I? My body feels heavy and I hear a lot of noise around me. Is this hell? We are in the great mansion of Baskerville. And in one room, hear the crying of several babies in this. The patriarch of the Baskerville family, Hugo Le Baskerville, entered the room. What petty brats. There's no one special here. I see nothing but trash in this place. Something caught the patriarch's eye, and his eyes were fixed on a newborn. At least one of these trashes is silent. The chief ordered to take the children to a place called the Cradle of Swords. Little Vicaire glared with hatred at the chief culprit of his execution, Hugo Le Baskerville. He looks younger. That means I, Vicaire van Baskerville, have gone back to when I was a baby. I lived my past life as a loyal hound. I was born into an illegitimate family, and so I received training in a poor environment. A bloodhound has to be loyal and dedicated to its mission. Assassinations, espionage, ambushes, and more diverse missions were carried out by the hounds. All that kind of dirty work was entrusted to the bloodhounds, and this made the Baskerville family the most important of the 7 families. He was loyal because he had a simple motive. He wanted to be recognized by his family and Hugo. When the door that connected to the demon realm was opened, 10 years of endless battles against the demons passed and ended with the victory of the humans. And the reward given to the brave hound who served all his life loyally was death. And the reason he was executed was because he knew too much. The little boy, as he remembered his past, clenched his fist and swore to himself that he would never live that life again. Little Vicaire stirred violently in his cradle, for he wanted revenge then and there, but with that newborn body, he could do nothing. The Cradle of Swords. It is a special place, where a child born into the Baskerville family needs to go through a test, where children are thrown into a maze of swords, where they must traverse the place until they reach the river Stygia to prove their talent. The river Stygia is a legendary river that strengthens children's bodies with iron-like hardness. But getting to the river is not simple. You have to travel a long distance to get to the Stygia. In my past life, I was discarded in favor of my brothers and could not get the benefits of that river. But this time it will be different. After reaching the goal, the young V dived into the river. This time, I will monopolize the blessing of the river as long as I can. Our protagonist dived into the depths of the river. He could feel the water seeping into the wounds on his body, and he thought that getting off to a good start would make a big difference. With all his might he covered his mouth to hold on for as long as he could, no matter how painful it was. Adults watching were alarmed. He has to get out. If he keeps this up, he's going to die. We have to get him out of the river. Ha 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 ha. The head of the household gave a grim look that showed amazement at the infant's feet. Consulting with his butler John Barrymore, he learned that this child had already been in the river for 7 minutes. In that length of time he might die. He said to himself, "Son, you can come out now." The boy heard Hugo's voice, but he didn't give a shit what he said and tried to stay longer in the river. Fuck. I need to absorb everything I can. His body gave up no more, and he started drowning. Hold on, he said to himself. Luckily a hand grabbed him and pulled him to the surface. The patriarch pulled his son out. Look at that boy, even drank the water of the river Stygia. You were greedy. The patriarch noticed that he even had his teeth already formed. He asked his butler the name of the muchacho. That boy is the young master Vicaire van Baskerville. The father put on a big smile when he learned that boy's name. I seem to have had a rather greedy son. Even in unconsciousness, the little boy curses his progenitor and waits for the moment to take revenge on him, our protagonist. He will have to sharpen his fangs, and when the time comes he himself will tear off the head of his former master. With great hatred he says to himself, the Baskerville clan will disappear from history. I swear it, and I will do it all with my own hands. Vicaire van Baskerville. The bastard son of Hugo Le Baskerville. At the age of 8, he was so talented that he should be considered a genius, but to his family, he was considered ordinary. In his 20s, he was engaged in assassination and espionage missions. At age 29, he realized that he had reached his limit in swordplay compared to his family's direct lineage. At the age of 30, the disaster of the demons occurred and the invasion took place. At the age of 35 came the time of destruction, in which he slaughtered monsters left and right. At 39 years old, the war finally came to an end, and humanity triumphed. And at the age of 40, he was rewarded for his loyalty. His blissful reward was defamation and death. Vicaire in his child's body began to awaken. He wondered where he was, to then remember that he was in the nursery. That means only one thing. I managed to successfully absorb the properties of the water of the river Styx. Excellent, with this I will have a better starting point. Her thoughts stop when a maid approaches with something in her hands. The lady sent me to bring this, but because she wants me to put this in young Vicaire's cradle. The maid walks away, leaving Vicaire wondering why she would bring him a gift, being only an illegitimate child. The small present begins to open, and a dark aura becomes visible. Vicaire recoils in surprise, and realizes what it is. It is the dangerous bloody mamba. By any chance do they want to kill me? These snakes are very poisonous. Very few are called Madam in Baskerville, so they want to eliminate the competition in favor of their own children. If I don't do something, even the other children will be in danger. Snakes are taken roughly, like a true Baskerville. He will finish off his enemies with his own hands. He finished with the 2 snakes, and so came the next day, leaving surprised those who arrived and observed a scene that was not normal for a child, leaving the Baskerville horrified because a simple child slept peacefully while 2 snakes were torn to pieces. That same day the maids in charge of the night watch were executed in order to hide things. But someone knew the truth. After 8 years, we see a group of young people. They were all taking classes. Their teacher was teaching how to be a swordsman. He teaches us that there are 3 stages. Beginner is one who has not yet been able to imbue mana. Expert, those who are able to imbue small amounts of mana into their swords. Graduate, the mana forms a celestial aura on the swords. The last stage is called Masters. They solidify the aura and can shape it according to the swordsman's desire. We are told that the best Baskerville, Mr. Hugo, is already a master of the sword, surprising young students. The protagonist had a goal. He had to regain his strength at any cost. The master noticed that young Vicaire was deep in thought. Young Vicaire, surprisingly strong. His body has been strengthened by the river Styx, and he possesses a bold mind, as well as a talent on another level, compared to the rest. The clan chief is elated by young Vicaire's breakthrough. Meanwhile, our protagonist was analyzing how much time he would need to kill Hugo. His thoughts were interrupted when he felt the gaze of 3 red-haired men. After a while, the 3 red-haired men cornered Vicaire as they called him trash. You know you are an illegitimate Baskerville, but there is a strange rumor about you. You were 7 minutes in the river Styx, and also killed 2 poisonous snakes in your crib. Is that really true? A memory came to him. When he was accused, these 3 idiots chased me and stabbed me while I wanted to escape. At that time, they had a nickname. They were known as Hugo Le Baskerville's Trident. These kind of people I don't like at all, said the 3 brothers. In 10 years, these 3 will grow up and become quite skilled enemies. It will be good to take care of these weeds before they take root. A knife was pointed at his neck. He didn't even flinch. If you are in the river Styx for a long time, your body will become very much like steel. Then you won't be hurt by a simple knife. If I stab you, you won't die, will you? Lowbro, hold on to him. Got it. Bro, the protagonist was grabbed from behind. If you really were in the river Styx for 7 minutes, then I'll eat my hand if you survive 3 minutes without breathing. These guys are really idiots. I'll play with them a little. After 1 minute the brothers were confident. After 3 minutes they started to wonder if I was still okay. After 10 minutes their faces were in total disbelief. The one holding him had only one thought in his head. Was it really true? Let him go. This isn't funny anymore. Let him go now. My hand. Our protagonist spat out a finger. He had torn off one of the brothers as the stricken one screamed. What are you surprised about? You didn't say you'd eat your hand if I held my breath for 3 minutes. All this he said, while he had a twisted expression on his face. You think something so simple would scare us? Although they pretended to be brave, one of the brothers was really scared. The one who was scared was the victim who had his finger ripped off. Calm down, brother. Now we're going to get your finger back. And who told them they could leave? Fucking bastard. One of the brothers rushed forward at high speed, with a knife in his hand. Have you forgotten that we are older than you? As he said that, he plunged the knife into his stomach. But what is this is impossible. I think you are the one who has forgotten something. This is the Baskerville clan. As long as you have strength and talent, age doesn't matter. Now stop complaining, and let's get on with the game. Were the rumors true? To shut the idiot's mouth, our protagonist gave him a tremendous punch in the face. Big brother, are you alright? You fucking bastard. He too was silenced with a single kick. Don't be so scared. If you hurry you can heal. I've been soft on you, and at the rate things are going, I think I'll leave you handicapped for the rest of your lives. But I will be merciful. I will let one of you go. One asked the question, which one of us will you let go? That's for you to decide. I will not be patient. So decide quickly. At least one of you must live, right? The three brothers processed the information. And with that done, the Baskerville trident collapsed of its own accord. A new dawn came. Clan Chief Steward John Barrymore informed the clan chief that there was a conflict with Clan Morg at the Ruby Mine. They claim the mine is in their territory. He has something else to report, was the clan chief's reply. Young Master Vikia took the first place in the written exam. That information was to the clan leader's liking. When will the practical exams start? The exams will start in 5 days. The castle guards are already preparing everything for the practical exam. However, there was an event at the castle that I must inform you about. There was a big fight between the young triplets of the clan. Has anyone died? No one died, but the older brother's teeth are damaged. The middle brother's jaw is broken. And the youngest had a finger cut off. They have recovered, but they have a lot of mental damage. Hugo asked about the reason for the fight. He knew the brothers were too friendly to fight each other. The butler reported that it was his youngest brother by a year who was responsible. It was the one who came first in the written exam. It was the young Master Vikia. We found ourselves in a passageway leading to where our protagonist was. He was calm and had a relaxed posture. You have grown up a lot, young Vikia, said the clan leader. The leader mentioned about the triplets that were injured, where Vikia mentioned that they were already healed, downplaying it. Although I don't mean physical injuries, I mean injuries that left mental after effects. They used to be very close, but now they have stopped talking to each other. They used to fight as a group. But now there are grudges between them. The young vicar just smiled without showing any guilt. He asks if he did nothing wrong for disabling his older siblings. Wrong. What did I do wrong? I am stronger than them. How can someone stronger be wrong? Your brothers came before you and forgave you generously, and yet you feel no guilt. They forgave me. A memory came to me. It was before my regression. The last survivor of a clan. She came to the Baskerville clan to meet Hugo directly. She, who was a nun, came to ask his forgiveness. Hugo, with a cold and serious look, gave his answer. Forgiveness is nothing but an excuse for the weak who cannot take revenge. Her a big smile. Put on the patriarch. You were absolutely right. Strength is justice, which means that being weak is a sin. You understand the motto of our clan very well. The patriarch called his steward, and he ordered him one thing. Take my son to the food store and give him whatever snack he wants, but let him take only what he can carry. We don't want him to be too gluttonous. If so, then I'd like to eat chocolate. Thank you, clan chief. Having said this, he turned and left with the butler. Son, before you go, I have something to tell you. The practical evaluation is coming up, so be well prepared, and don't lose to anyone from the main house. That was said with a big proud smile to his son. Yes, clan leader. It is clear that our protagonist did not like that way Hugo behaved. This chocolate is a high-quality product. The butler said so. I don't need anything processed. I want the cocoa bean itself. One with a very strong flavor. That surprised everyone, even more the butler, for simply wanting the cocoa bean. We watch as he is given a bag with several cocoa beans. These beans are a type of cocoa that has an extremely strong flavor. Just 1 gram can make 100 liters of chocolate. It's hard to believe that he eats those beans raw. He must really like chocolate. This young man took his words at face value. He has taken all he could take, and so he can make all the chocolate he wants. It's really smart. One of the cooks offered to process the beans, but he simply refused, confusing the butler. Maybe I was wrong, and he simply has a unique taste. What they didn't know is that he didn't simply want the cocoa to eat it. He had plans in hand. His purpose will be revealed in 5 days, when he takes the practical exam. We see how the day of the practical exam has arrived, and we see our protagonist very confident. At that moment, he puts on a very euphoric smile, as he knows that today something is going to happen. The Baskerville clan was also known to the world as the Berserker clan. The children of this clan were subjected to a rigorous educational program. As soon as the children began to walk, they were taken out to climb a very steep mountain. Only for basic training, and no rest was allowed. When it was time to sleep, they had to sleep with the corpse of a demonic creature. This was to make them adapt to the harsh environment. When the probationary period was over, and they reached the age of 8, the young hounds faced more difficulties. All this led them to be called the Berserker clan. The day of the practical assessment came, and the youngsters were ready. The young hounds gathered on a mountain called the Rouge et Lenoir. The mountain was full of demonic creatures, which were captured on the borders of the territory. Young masters, the practical assessment is quite simple. One of the instructors of the test spoke. Pavlov van Baskerville. Survive for a month and hunt demonic creatures. Just follow those 2 simple rules. If you save someone, you will be awarded 10 points. 30 points if you get hurt in the process. 50 points for surviving by eliminating another young master. 70 points for hunting a demonic creature and surviving. And finally, 90 points for fulfilling all of the above conditions. Each one has been awarded a badge. Stealing that badge from another person will count as bonus points. 0 points if you die. And remember that lowering the guard will result in your imminent death. You are advised not to leave your assigned areas There are many dangerous areas on this mountain that have not been explored. Stick to hunting in this area for demonic creatures. Remember that there will be bloodhound guides. They will secretly grade your performance in the test. Some of the participants kept looking at young Vikia, as everyone knew that he spent 7 minutes in the river Styx, and that he strangled two poisonous snakes in his cradle as a baby. Many speculated about the performance of our protagonist and wondered if he would also do well in the practical assessment. Young Vikia was anxious, as he had not been there for a long time. We see that the triplets were also there, and were clearly nervous in his presence. The instructor pulls out a bell indicating that the assessment is about to begin. The instructor rings the bell and wishes them success. All the young people present leave the site at high speed. All the young people were marching to different areas. Some were simply going to secure an area to their advantage. Others were going as a team and preparing to steal points from another. We see the three brothers who were also preparing, and although they were arguing a bit, all three were in agreement to win this practice. Has it already started? Wondered the instructor. Although this test does not encourage killing others, it is not forbidden either. These were the instructor's thoughts. Some celebrated the death of their relatives, as it earned them extra points. Guide hounds or instructors will be watching, so deaths will be minimal. We see someone hiding, possibly one of the instructors. He wonders why young Vikia in an unexplored area. He also wonders how far this young man intends to go. He waits impatiently for his performance, for from a very young age he has shown great skills worthy of a genius. Was it this way? Wonders Vikia. He checks the state of the ground and notices that it is quite soft. Having checked it out, he decides to stay put for the time being. Time to enjoy my holiday, he says to himself as he stretches. The instructor, rather surprised, really wonders if he is going to take a holiday there. We clearly see how our protagonist spends the whole time quite calmly and enjoying his holiday, as he had said. While, on the other hand, we see the other young people struggling and surviving various situations. After quite some time, we can clearly see how the supervisor, who was hiding, had a face that showed that he was really shocked by Vikia's behavior. All he has been doing is hunting, eating and gathering firewood. Does he really intend to hide here all the time? Were the rumors false? He probably didn't need to be here, he was just going to hide. What he and no one else knew was that this was young Vikia's plan, because after he leaves, he puts on a sly smile. He's finally gone. Although camping was not bad, it was a bit nostalgic, because he remembers a scene from his past life when he was a group leader. He's still at the campfire. He looks up at the sky. Now that the obstacles are gone, the preparations must be finished. It is time for the hound to hunt its prey. Later he sees a place where there is a fence with a sign with a skull and crossbones on it. The young man enters this area, which is an unexplored area. He thinks to himself, beyond this area, no one has explored, but this area was my playground when I was an explorer in my past life. A smell comes to his nose. He notices dead and burnt roots. Now he is sure that he is close to the habitat of this creature. To his ears comes the sound of something burning, and he encounters an excrement burning with fire. There is only one demonic creature. What could secrete such a thing? In his scouting days he was used to seeing such creatures, but seeing it at this moment seemed truly fantastic. With a roar and a terrifying sight, emerges the creature called Hellhound. The creature makes its presence known and gives a terrifying roar. A brief description is given. The danger rating is B+. It averages 10 feet in size. A single bite can cause death. Its fire cannot be extinguished until the creature's life comes to an end. The creature slowly approaches closer and closer to our young Baskerville. Before I came back from my death, I could only fight that creature after I turned 18. But with this 8-year-old body, that may be too much for my present self. However, I know a method that allows even a child like him to defeat a hellhound. Without waiting any longer, he rushes at high speed. Both he and the hellhound dive headlong into the attack. He manages to slide over the lower half of the demonic creature. One of the creature's weaknesses is that it can only move in a straight line. It struggles to make sudden changes of direction. The dog now seems more annoyed than before. It takes out a bottle and starts pouring water on the ground, knowing another weakness of its enemy. Creatures like the demon dog, for some reason, cannot cross any road that has water, even if there is little. In this situation, the dog at a slower speed moves in a curved way to reach the human. Another weakness is mentioned by Vikia. This type of monster, when running and attacking, opens its mouth to wide. With a simple movement, he throws something in the direction of the demonic dog, and in an agile way he also manages to dodge it. The demon in the form of a dog is about to turn to attack again, but something happens inside the dog's body. The dog collapses, and we see how our protagonist had thrown one of the cocoa beans at it, thus hinting at another weakness of the dog-shaped monster. One cocoa bean was enough to leave the dog in terrible condition, as one of those beans can make 100 liters of chocolate. Our protagonist scoffs a little at the dog's simple weakness and begins to unsheathe his sword. He tells us that normally one would hit the stomach and heart first, but he informs us that they are protected. But there is one place where it is not protected by the rib cage, and that place is the kidneys. With a quick movement, he thrusts the sword into the dog, making it whimper in pain. He proceeds to withdraw the sword, leaving in evidence a rather deep cut. A sort of blue aura begins to emanate from the creature. We are informed that this blue aura is something that is bestowed upon the person when he kills a demonic creature. This is called experience or karma, and leads to the strengthening of the body. Now, with more strength, he can swing his sword more easily. He was quite excited, as he was taking his first steps to regain the strength he once had as an adult. I wonder what Hugo's face will be like when he finds out that a mere child caused the death of a B+ rank demonic creature. By killing this creature, our protagonist is sure to get the first place in the practical exam, and he has already thought of a good reward to ask for. I will ask for something that in this age nobody knows its true value. Our protagonist was about to cut off the creature's head, but he hears something behind him. He turns his gaze, and is surprised by what he sees, for more hellhounds arrived at his sight. Apparently they came because of his companion's scream. Perhaps they want revenge for the death of one of their own. With a single slash, he rips off the head of the hellhound that was already fallen on the ground. With a determined look, and with a clear sign of provocation, he seeks to kill more than one. The dogs were about to attack, but they sense the dark presence of something else. Our protagonists are surprised because they notice something in the infernal dogs. Are they afraid of me? I don't think so. These creatures would rather die than submit to their prey. But when he looks back, he manages to understand why the hellhounds were afraid. An even more intimidating being was on the prowl. Well, it was the one known as Cerberus, a creature even more dangerous than the hellhounds. Our protagonist is a bit worried because the danger rating is A, and he wonders why he is in this place. That's blood. Now that I see it much better, it looks like this creature was being hunted. You can clearly see that it has arrow wounds all over its body. Our protagonist thinks that the barbarian tribe living on the other side of this mountainous area has been hunting this creature. It is a great opportunity. With so many wounds, it would be a waste not to kill it. It is time for young Master Vikia to show the skills he has been hiding. His mastery with the sword has reached the expert stage, and he has already mastered the third technique of his clan called the third Baskerville Fang. He was already at a level that the others would only reach in their adult stage. With great determination, he lunges towards his new enemy. A great blow is aimed right at one of the Cerberus heads. The other heads do not remain calm, and one is about to bite him. Our protagonist, with great agility, also manages to hit it with his sword. Our protagonist was really excited as he was fully confident that he could defeat that creature while he was wounded. Before the regression in the war against the demons, Master Vikia's sword technique was perfected, and there were no unnecessary movements when it came to killing. Moreover, he now possessed a body strengthened by the river Styx that was more than enough to cause damage to a wounded Cerberus. But Cerberus gets angry, and the demonic aura comes out. Our protagonist was confident, but still the truth is that he hadn't even hurt the Cerberus. In one move, Cerberus managed to stun Vikia. For a moment of carelessness, Severo took advantage of the opening and managed to use his claws. The move was so strong that it sent Vikia flying. He crashed into a tree and the loud impact sound was odd. The crash was so strong that he spat some blood. We are shown the stats of the Cerberus. Danger grade A, with a size of 7 meters, and it is considered the strongest of the dog-shaped monsters. For a moment it seemed that our protagonist was defeated, but he immediately opens his eyes. Apparently he fainted for a while due to the tremendous blow he received from the Cerberus. The protagonist's left arm was wounded. Apparently it had been torn. Our protagonist was surprised to see the wound caused by the Cerberus. The damage was minimal. Apparently due to the effects of the river Styx, the Cerberus doesn't wait a minute longer and tries to attack again. Reflexively, it dodges the attack. He knows that if this drags on and accumulates more damage, it will be difficult to survive. In a complicated situation like this, a veteran hunter like him used the technique to cope with this situation, and the best he can do in this situation is Stratagem 36, Retreat. If it wasn't for the wound he already has, the Cerberus would have already been captured and devoured. I have to thank the barbarian tribe for their indirect help. You can now dazzle that you are close to the border. I'll make it. If I can get him to the place I prepared beforehand, I will win, but if he catches me first, I'll be dead. Our protagonist keeps running away from the creature at high speed. He manages to see from afar that it is approaching its target. Just a little more. Just a little more and I'll get there. We see that our protagonist is in a horrible situation and is about to be torn to pieces. Our protagonist prepares to take a leap, and with great agility, he breaks away and takes distance from the monster. We see that our protagonist almost doesn't make it, but we can see that the ground the monster is walking on, it's starting to crack. The Cerberus does not know what is happening. It is sinking into the ground. Our protagonist could finally get some air to rest. Welcome to your sword cradle, Cerberus. Our protagonist was glad, because the trap was initially set for a hellhound. Who would have thought that it would serve to catch the Cerberus? Like the hellhound itself, the Cerberus shares the weakness of chocolate, which acts as a poison in its body. And the traps were all covered in cocoa beans. The demonic creature, although it was more wounded, it still wouldn't give up. It hasn't died yet. But I guess that's because you're a high-ranking creature. With a quick movement it fires the spear it was holding in its hand. The demonic creature sees the attack coming. Said creature emits a tremendous roar. Our protagonist began to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. As he counted, he began to approach the creature. But the creature could not hold on any longer and fell. Our protagonist contemplated the dead animal fallen at his feet. At that moment he felt his strength increase as Cerberus energy entered him. He wondered how to handle this, although he didn't worry too much, for he had killed him, and the guard who had seen him earlier could testify on his behalf. But before he went back he had something on his hands, to go to a dungeon. A strange space with strange objects and treasures. An orphan inhabited by powerful demonic creatures. He knew at once that the Cerberus was the guardian of said dungeon. He covered himself with the essence of the Cerberus to avoid confrontations with other demonic creatures in that place. Our young Baskerville followed the trail left by the Cerberus. With a slow walk he finally reached his destination. He contemplated the entrance, as it was where the Cerberus had previously been. In his past life he had been there. This would be discovered in 10 years, but by then it was all empty. But at the moment it is different, because he is very sure that the area has not yet been cleared. The light doesn't go that far. It seems to be deeper than he had thought. On his face, he shows an expression of excitement. Well, now I'll look for the treasures for myself. Our protagonist continued to enter the depths of the dungeon. At the end of the path, he could dazzle a light and wondered if that was the entrance to the center of the dungeon. An intense light blinded him for a moment. He observed a type of mineral that illuminated the entire section. He told himself that the ruby was imbued with mana, and was the emotional reason why it emitted light. Something caught the young Baskerville's attention. Apparently someone was here before me. From what I can see are stab wounds, and I also see dried blood stain. He must have spent a lot of time here. From what I can see, this writing is from someone in the Baskerville clan. The one who wrote to him does not mention his name. He nicknames himself Cain. I write this so that future generations do not make the same mistake I did. This dungeon has been talked about in the family as a legend. My brother Abel and I found this place by pure chance. We killed many monsters until we reached this room. But by then, it had been a long time since we started our search. 3 years had passed. The protagonist was surprised. He wondered why they wanted that treasure so badly. He also deduced that the final mission must be nearby. He looked at a scripture and deduced that this must be the final challenge. The scripture said, "On entering it is one, once inside it is two, and on the way out it is one again." We pondered what this sinister text could mean. In the end, we both came to a conclusion. My brother and I were one in our mother's womb. But when we were born, we were separated in two. In other words, to get the treasure out of this dungeon, we had to become one again. That meant only one thing. A battle between brothers, where only one would survive. For only one could get the treasure. After a hard fight, I was able to kill my own brother. Finally, only one of the brothers was left by the stone in that room. But despite the sacrifice, there was no change. We definitely went from 2 to 1. So why couldn't I get the treasure? I murdered my own brother. With my own hands I murdered him. After that moment I repented and left that place. I only want to warn those who enter this place. Leave immediately. Because there is nothing to gain in this lair that only mocks humans. So in the end he left. They came here and overcame several challenges, but in the end they left with nothing. When he finished reading, he turned his gaze to the glass. He concluded that the twins misread the text, since it was only one, and yet the crystal was active to complete the mission. He begins to analyze, as each dungeon can be overcome. He approaches the dead brother's corpse, and something comes to his mind. I get it, he said to himself. Those brothers were unlucky. As being two, they had the wrong idea. A dark passageway with a stone that illuminates and contrasts the place. The answer is very simple. I am one as I enter through the dark passageway. But as soon as the light of the ruby becomes present, I become two. And when I return to the darkness, I become one. When at last all is revealed. With a single blow he breaks the stone. With a big smile he says, the answer to this enigma is the shadow. Something begins to rebel in front of young Vikia. It is unbelievable. The brothers died for this. The relic from the devil's lair, a sword with demonic presence, is revealed before their eyes. If we focus on the scriptures, we can see that it says, only those with the blood of the Baskerville will be able to take Beelzebub. So this sword comes from this dungeon. I remember seeing an illustration when I was a kid in my past life. There was a fly-type monster, called the gluttonous fly Beelzebub. It was a large unprecedented monster that invaded this continent in ancient times. It was known as one of the 7 calamities. To defeat these 7 calamities, the chiefs of each family had to face one of these powerful enemies. The constellation of the devil that confronted the first patriarch of the Baskerville was known as the Wolverine Beelzebub. The remains of this monster were stored in the lands of the Baskerville. The energy it radiates attracts various monsters. This has been a legend that no one has believed until now. However, the legend was true, and when they invaded the demon clan, They seized this weapon that caused countless deaths on the battlefield. But that will not happen in this life, because now the weapon is mine. Our protagonist began to pull out the weapon that radiated a blood-red color. With great effort, he began to pull out the weapon, but it began to enter completely into the hand of the young Baskerville. We see how the weapon that came undone begins to enter completely into the hand of our protagonist, until finally from his own hand appears the weapon he had extracted. I was lucky to have obtained Beelzebub. I wonder how strong I will be in this life. The protagonist had a somewhat sinister smile. I can't wait to find out. There's nothing left here. Should I go back? Out of nowhere he felt a stirring inside him. The weapon he had obtained began to affect him. What the hell is this? Dizziness? No. Maybe it's hunger. The sword in his hand began to tremble, indicating that he wanted to feed. Slowly and holding his stomach, he walked out of the dungeon. This appetite is unbearable. It's like I'm being stabbed. My sense of smell is sensitive because of hunger. Something smells delicious. The sword began to guide our protagonist in one direction. The path he was following was the path where he was before. It was there that he again encountered the corpse of the hellhound he had killed earlier. Without waiting any longer, the weapon in his hand reached out like a stinger and connected with the corpse. The sword began to devour, and the hunger he had been feeling began to subside. He wondered if the dry, lifeless environment was also the cause of the Beelzebub. As he wondered how much he had to feed to satiate the hunger. A while later, the sting of the weapon retracted, implying that it had already devoured its prey. Apparently, the weapon just granted it one of the Hellhound's abilities. So this is Beelzebub's unique ability. He wondered as he looked at the weapon. We are told that Beelzebub, the gluttonous fly, had the ability to absorb the abilities of the opponents it ate. It was also said that it could absorb an unlimited amount of abilities, although it was currently realized that it can only absorb 3 abilities. The ability he got from the Hellhound is that if it caused him the slightest scratch he could shed an obscene amount of blood. Our protagonist was amazed because he could obtain any skill. When his gaze was directed to corpse, Beelzebub was activated again, implying that he was still hungry. This will be hard to explain when checking the state of this creature, so he orders Beelzebub not to eat it all. With an impassive face, he watched as his new weapon continued to devour the body of the infernal dog. With a tap, he stopped Beelzebub before it devoured the whole body. We can see how most of the young hounds have already returned after finishing their practical evaluation. The evaluation was over. The corpses of the demonic creatures captured by the young hounds, they turned them into shields, swords, necklaces, and then returned them to them as a reward. But one of the corpses left everyone surprised. This information reached the patriarch, asking who had captured that. The butler answered. It was the young master Vicaire van Baskerville, 8 years. According to the information obtained, he went into an unexplored area during the examination. Apart from the Hellhound, he captured a Class A+ Cerberus monster. Hugo, the clan leader, asked him the method he used to capture and defeat that high-rank creature. The butler told him that the creature had already been injured by the barbarian tribe, and that he had poisoned it. The leader wanted to know what kind of poison he had used. Unfortunately, the butler had no information because the young master Vicaire returned to his bedroom. What a sly little brat he is. Well, knowledge is power. To be honest, I'm quite surprised to think that such talent comes from someone with the surname Van, and not from the main family with the surname La. I realize you don't know me. I am different from the old leaders. I don't care about the origin. What does it matter if he comes from the royal family or from a harlot? The only thing that matters is his talent. It has even been seen that the weak can come from the leading families. You know what I am talking about. The butler merely apologized cordially. Don't worry, but I need you to call young Vicaire. We met our protagonist, who was in the same room with the clan leader. I heard you killed the Cerberus. How did you kill it? It was easy enough. I just gave him chocolates to kill him. Chocolates. It's true that it's poison for demonic dog-like creatures. So that's why you asked for chocolates, right? That's right. While they were talking, the butler could be seen asking if it was a normal talk between a father and son. They didn't even greet each other. I have been informed that he didn't answer the method he used to hunt. Why didn't he? Well, it was simple, he was not my master. Then who is he? Since I have belonged to this clan, I only answer to the clan chief. Well boy, you have learned well. After further conversation, the chief grants him a wish he wants as a reward for coming first in the practical exam. Without wasting any time, he wishes to be let into the library. For the library I wanted to enter was known as the Library of 10,000 Books. It was located in the depths of the main castle of the Baskerville clan. With a stern look he replies that only the head of the clan and the members of the main house can enter. With a resigned look she accepts that this is not possible, and her second best option was to sneak into the library. But to her surprise, Hugo gives her access to the library. Go to the deepest parts of the library. I want you to read Baskerville fencing. Six Fang. That rather astonished our protagonist, for an illegitimate son hardly had the opportunity to learn the fourth Fang. Although he still left his astonishment, since it was only up to the sixth Fang. It is also said that at present the head of the clan was at the level of the seventh Fang, but before Hugo died, he was already capable of executing up to the ninth Fang. He has not yet been able to overcome his tragic death, and in this life he will do his best to surpass Hugo. His goal is to obtain a deed that contains the pure essence of Baskerville fencing styles. It was discovered in his past life, and was written by the first leader of the clan, who in turn killed 7 calamities, and who will give me that writing will be you. Hugo Le Baskerville, you will give it to me yourself. Bowing his head, he thanks you for permission to enter the library and obtain the style of the sixth Fang. At the moment, no one knows the value of the book you wish to obtain. At a steady pace, he is about to enter the front door of the library. This is the Library of 10,000 Books. This is the first time I've come here in person. You can see a myriad of techniques that he would have liked to learn before he met his tragic death. There is a rule in the clan. No matter how much mana an illegitimate child has, they are never allowed to learn beyond the fourth Fang technique. This is done to prevent them from attacking direct descendants, and that's where you see the book of the sixth Fang technique. I'm sure the clan chief allowed me to do this, because he thinks it's impossible for an 8-year-old to memorize everything in one day. Having said that, he opens the lock where the book was. Before my regression, I studied and perfected the techniques from the first to the fourth Fang, and then I tried to guess the theory of the fifth Fang that I would never be taught. We are informed that Baskerville fencing has different levels. These levels are defined by Fangs. The first level represents 1 Fang, level 2 represents 2 Fangs. A Fang-shaped aura is present when these techniques are used. The 6th Fang technique is good, but I don't really care, as my goal today is different. What I want is an even higher level. Hey, young Master Vikia, are you leaving already? I'm done with my business in this part already, but you can keep reading more before you go. Don't worry, I plan to go through other scriptures, so you can ignore me and get on with your work. But on that site, there is no scripture of any importance. If it were me, I would keep reading the fencing scriptures. Are you unaware of the value of those books? The protagonist ignored everything, because he didn't care what they thought. It is impossible for them to know. But a great treasure is hidden in this abandoned section. As he walked along, he stumbled upon a section. Here it is. He picks up an old book with the title Inlaid Teeth on the Prowl. He puts on a big smile because he has found what he wanted to look for. At first glance, it may be basic early Fang style writing, and since all the middle leaves are torn out, the book was classified as worthless. However, I know the true value of this book. Before my regression, a unit of hounds, of which was a part, found a strange relic inside a dungeon. What was inside was a fencing script, although it only had one page, written by a Baskerville. Realizing something, Hugo had them search the entire library for a book with a missing page. And that book is the one I have in my hands. It is written by a Baskerville ancestor, where he details the method of how to get to the 10th Fang. Going crazy for such an event, Hugo unleashed the hounds and sent for the missing 6 pages. It almost started a war, because Hugo sent the hounds to the other clans, because he knew that in each of the clans, there was a missing page, so he sent the bones against all those who resisted. After several deaths, we were able to offer the missing pages to Hugo, since he was also part of that group, but all that effort did not lead to any reward. The clan leader, using this new knowledge, was able to overcome the 7th Fang barrier, and was able to reach the 9th Fang, using the blood and corpses of the hounds as stepping stones. That will never happen in this life. The hound that collected all the pages was me. I can remember all the pages, but the reason I couldn't get through the 4th Fang was because I never had the complete text. At first it seemed like the book didn't make sense, and so it was completely discarded. But the moment you put the missing pages in place, it all starts to make sense. With this information, I am sure that before the age of 15, it will be stronger than before my regression. For currently the protagonist is at the 4th level of swordsmanship and possesses a high sword, or a rank. We see how our protagonist continues reading and goes from dusk to dawn. We see that our protagonist was about to finish reading. He closes the book and finishes everything he had to read. Have I been here all day? Well, it doesn't matter. Thanks to that I have memorized the book completely. Well, I don't feel the presence of a guardian knight. I may not yet be able to complete the 10 fangs with this child's body, but what I can do is try to reach the 5th fang. With his mind he creates the figure of a spectre as a person, then with great skill proceeds to use the 1st fang, then the 2nd fang, 3rd fang, 4th fang, to finish. He puts all his concentration. A regrettable memory of his previous life comes to his mind. He, with hard work, was able to obtain the high sword or a rank. But he was underestimated by the main house, because he could not learn the correct sword play of the main family. And the reason why he could not achieve the 5th fang was because he was an illegitimate son. But this time things will be different. The spectre in human form begins to change, and the figure of his father becomes present. With great skill he performs several precise cuts. And it is here that he uses the 5th fang for the first time. He finishes the technique. We see that he is somewhat agitated. He tells himself that he still has to perfect it, but he manages to make use of the 5th fang. A great feeling invaded his heart. He was so excited that he wanted to cry, because he had finally achieved something he never thought he could do. The different levels of fencing are explained to us. They range from the low rank, which is the 1st fang, to the high rank, which is the 6th fang. Beyond that is the sword graduate, which is the highest rank, and the sword master, which is the 7th fang. Putting aside his enthusiasm, he sets about seeing that no one is around. Throughout the history of Baskerville, the fangs of a young hound were sharpened for the sole purpose of biting his master's neck. Now that I can finally use the 5th fang, I just need to increase my mana, and with that I would be at the same level I was before I died. The young protagonist is really happy because his abilities are growing to an incomparable level. This aura I feel is definitely that of a graduate. I am at the same level I was when I turned 30. But this time it has only taken me 8 years to reach it. It is explained to us that the level of the graduates is at another level compared to that of the sword experts, because at this stage the aura becomes denser, making it easier to change the shape of the aura. My sword skill is much higher than before my regression. A skill that does not stop at the 5th fang, but can reach the 10th fang. The swordsmanship I possessed before allowed me to be stronger and faster, but the limits of growth were quite clear. But the swordsmanship I possess works in attack and defense, and has no limits to its potential. With it I can even take on people stronger than me. In case of assassinations, I have a success rate of 100% and in a confrontation 50%. The only problem is how much I have to show Hugo, so that he doesn't get suspicious. The amount of strength I must show, no be neither too little nor too much. I will have to show enough to get him interested, and I can still take advantage of the benefits. Now we see how our protagonist starts to burn the book, for now he's going to be the only one with the knowledge to get to the 10th fang. That done, Hugo and his pet dogs will have no chance of getting to the 10th fang, except for me. The guards there approached as they began to smell something burning. "What have you done, master?" Vikia pretended to be sorry, excusing himself that he had accidentally left the book on our magnifying glass. The guards didn't mind too much though, because luckily according to them, he only burned a random book without any important contents. It wasn't important. Now that I remember, there is no conflict with the Moor clan over the ruby mines. I don't think they have time to worry about my actions. Let's leave this as if it never happened. The two managers who were there agreed. Then this remains a secret. I take my leave and apologize for taking up so much of your time. Both guards were quite surprised by the good attitude of the young Master Vikia, as he cared about servants like them. What a respectable young man, were their thoughts. While our protagonist had a big smile for what he had done, the young man was on his way to the part where the clan leader was. The leader asked him if he had any progress. The young man only gave a simple answer, more or less. He's asked if he felt anything from what he discovered inside the library. The young man describes that he felt something warm and cutting, and at the same time like a big wave. Perhaps it could be the aura. The butler wonders as the clan chief stares at him. We are told that the aura is proof that someone has truly entered the world of the sword. Even prodigies who train if they rest only get it at 15. The leader wonders if he has really made it, because he is only an 8-year-old boy. Can you teach your father? The young man cheerfully responds by agreeing to his request. We find ourselves in a large coliseum. We can observe youngsters of our protagonist's age. We meet the young Vikia, who carries a sword in his hand. The butler asks, what will be the method of testing the young master? The patriarch simply says that he will send a beast to see what his son's level is. Are you really sure about sending a demonic beast? That's right. I am sure. I know they have let him starve to make him more irritated. We can see an orc that is chained up. The orc is clearly furious and is classified as a level C danger. All the youngsters are surprised because sending an 8-year-old to fight this beast is too much for him. Even a 15-year-old would have a hard time. Don't worry. If anything happens, there are the Guardian Knights to intervene. The clan leader makes a signal that is picked up by the Guardian Knight. With that command, he begins to untie the orc. The demonic creature is now ready to fight. Before the attack, it roars with all its might. Without waiting a second longer, it launches into the attack towards the human. Our protagonist was calm in the face of the threat. With one swift movement, he makes a large cut on the orc's arm. The other children were shocked. The monster was confused, for in his eyes he was just a helpless child. The young man of the Baskerville clan does not stop there and moves at high speed with the aim of cutting off one of the orc's legs. With another slash, he nimbly pierces the orc's leg. With his leg gone, the orc loses his balance and falls to the ground. The orc is clearly confused and no longer knows what to do. Apparently, he went into shock because of the amount of blood lost, and apparently his regeneration is useless. With the skill I got, the bleeding will not stop. The youngsters there are wondering if he is really 8 years old, and they wonder if he does it without using mana. The clan chief is silently analyzing this whole situation. It seems I haven't convinced the clan chief yet. Then I will show him more of my skills. The previously analytical face is now one of astonishment at what his eyes see. The butler is also surprised to observe something very rare to see in someone so young. Is it the aura of a sword? We watch as young Vikia manifests the aura around his sword. The orc tries to get up. He finds it difficult as he is quite wounded. but his look turns to horror as he observes his adversary. Without time to process what is happening, his head is smashed in, and we see the young Vikia rushing past behind him. The clan chief was now in awe of his young son's skill, for at that age, it is quite difficult to see someone who can manifest the aura in the sword. The steward congratulates the clan chief, as he seems to be the genius son of this generation. Even among the other clans in the empire, I don't think there is another genius like him. Stop jumping to that conclusion. Didn't you notice? The orc didn't use his incredible regeneration. That's why he won, simply because the orc was too weak. The butler was a bit discouraged as the boss was not sincere with himself in showing happiness for his son. The two were interrupted when young Vikir called out to his father, "I want to face something stronger than the orc." That's all for the moment. If I see a lot of support, I will bring out the second part. Remember to subscribe to my channel. Your support motivates me to publish more content. Currently, I will be posting theories as main content and manga narration as secondary content. If I see enough support, I may continue to add more new content to my channel. Finally, I have to thank each one of you, because we are already more than 1,000 subscribers.